All right.
It's time.
Time for another session of Malt Reviews with Mike and Narby.
Yeah.
And we are doing another
Big surprise.
review from our favorite distillery. This is an older version of Springbank 21. Back in the 90s and 80s as well, you saw releases of the Dumpy style. We did review the J. Archibald Mitchell of the 21 Dumpy. If you haven't seen that review, go find it in our reviews and check that one out. And then this is a different version. This is a tall bottle of Springbank 21. And these Springbank 21s are all very, very famous. Just like the 12-year-old 100 proofs are very famous. These older style 21s are very famous as well. Some of them are very sherried, and some of them are bourbon, and then some of them are a bit mixed. So you either get that heavy sherry style or that very fruity bourbon style. Both work really, really well, and sometimes it's a little bit of both. What's so cool about Springbank, like we've said before, they're all just quite a bit different, but all quite a bit epic. And that's why these bottles are, if you read other reviews about these old Springbank 21s, they're just all epic. You've never heard anyone say anything bad about them, and there's a reason for that. So I think this one is released in the 1990s. I'm not sure exactly which year. It was an auction purchase for us a while back, but not sure exactly the year. It is one of 2,400 bottles. These were released 2,400 bottles at a time worldwide, and it's 46% ABV. This is a European release 70 CL bottle.
Yes, sir.
And this has been breathing for a good 30, 40 minutes, actually. We've been letting this one breathe for a while.
Not bad.
And let you guys see the color here is suggesting, that's a nice golden color. It's suggesting some bourbon casks and perhaps some sherry casks as well.
Yeah, perhaps some sherry. Nice traditional gold.
Yeah. On the nose.
Here we go. Springbank, our favorite distillery.
Imagine that Springbank funk you keep hearing about, along with just such fresh fruits. Right off the bat, I get mangoes and
Such a fruit party. So herbity.
dragon fruit,
Such a fruit party.
passion fruit.
Oh, the strength.
It's crazy. Speaking of passion fruits, I've been buying passion fruits, and just like each one, I went to the grocery store the other day, and each passion fruit, tiny little one, was $4 a piece, and they were so expensive where I only bought a couple of them, and they're just so delicious. But since I recently had it, this is totally reminding me of that. It's so good.
This is loaded with passion fruit.
Yeah.
Oh
Tons of passion. Oh, so good. Passion fruit, and then also getting a Japanese pear, just a very sweet pear. And it just that light peat element in there. That mineral element just ever so in the background. And if there is much sherry influence, I would guess maybe some second fill sherry cask in here. Not much of it. It is mainly bourbon. But perhaps a little bit of sherry influence as well. But I can't confirm that. It's mainly bourbon sweetness. But all in that old style, getting that funk. It's just really fruity and delicious. Oh, what would you say?
Not only does Springbank do the best colas, the best honey mustard, cherry vinaigrette, they do the best fruits, man. The most luxurious, exotic, luscious, juicy fruits, because it's all with that Springbank light muskiness funk. And just the way there is peat there, but it's a certain level of Springbank peat. It's a very kind of malt heavy peat. It's impossible to describe in words, but if you have enough Springbanks, You know exactly what I'm talking about because it's right there in the background and it's just lacing those fruits. And either that's what gives it the exotic nature or just the way it blends together, I don't know. But something about the Springbank, very bourbon cask, heavy influence fruits. They're just, it's like fruits that I've never even had before. I can't even put a name on them. I mean, it's in between the families of other fruits that we know, but they're not exactly the same. They're different. They're incredible. But just, I continue every time I try an old Springbank to just be more amazed and more amazed.
Yeah, it's all just very crystallized too. Even the citrus fruits that are coming out are so sweet. And that peat element just all kind of mingling in, and I just love the way Springbank does the peat element because it's just not heavy.
Yeah.
It's just so light, but it adds such a layer of complexity to it all, and it just makes it all just so unique. It's a nice vanilla element to it. Definitely getting some like almost like a seafood like oysters and like mussels and that like that buttery lemon sauce element to it as well. That's where the
little,
peat.
like, peat bridge. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's very unique. It's quite different from the heavily sherried Springbanks. Like the dumpy ones, a lot of them are really sherried.
Yeah.
Where you're getting that like thick mustard and the cola, and it's almost like a vinaigrette along with like darker and darker fruits, dried fruits, and this is more on fresh and luscious fruits. It's very crystallized, almost like the kind where you just want to like just bite into the glass just because it's so sweet and candied. And these old Springbanks are so different from the current Springbank 21s. You just can't compare them in any way. They're just so different. And again, Springbank is so famous for putting older whiskeys in their bottlings in the 90s. And I would imagine that they don't really do that anymore. No distiller really does that anymore.
The way that it switches, like Narbi was saying, that peat to me is like the bridge. It switches from the pure, juicy, luscious tropical fruits, orchard fruits, all kinds of fruits. And then that peat will give you just, not that dominant, not that long, but it will give you just a hint of almost like Isla quality whiskeys, sea spray and lemon and oysters, like he said, Narby said, lemon butter sauce, but just give you kind of that little vacation in Isla where you're getting a lot of those elements of an Isla whiskey, but then it sucks you back into Springbank, but it has that ability, it has that complexity, it has that breadth, that spectrum of flavors that it's so hard to find for most distilleries.
Yeah, the closest thing I could describe this to is it's like an aged 30-year-old Talisker, but less peat and even more fruits.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like a 30-year-old Talisker with less peat and more fruits.
Very good.
Really nice. I'm gonna hit the palate.
Let's do it. That ABV is so on. Love that extra 6%.
Tons of that.
Oh, God.
Tons of that apricot, peach, mango. That sweet orange, crystallized, very sweet, candied. very, very luscious and nice mouthfeel. Enough of an attack where just like it's really, really enjoyable. The back is tingling, and the front is all fruit. Love it when it kind of numbs the back, and then the front is all fruit, because that's when the finish ends up being very, very long, and it just kind of lingers on and on and on. Really, really unique in that sense, and adding a little bit of that peat element, reminding you of that sea spray along with everything, and it just does all that so well, and just truly, truly enjoyable. I wish the current bottlings were more like this.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is the rich sherry dumpies to me are even better than this, but these are insanely good too. So you got to own both, in my opinion, because
Two sides of Springbank.
yeah, two sides to it, and there's just not very many distilleries. The other distillery I could think of in the olden times that did both that kind of the bourbon style really well and the sherry style really well would be Bowmore.
There you go.
Ardbeg in the older style would do it really, really well too. Yeah, those are the whiskeys that just really, really blow you away. And we keep talking about these older styles of these distilleries, and we're gonna do our best job to keep introducing more and more of these to you guys in the reviews. And I'm sure you guys have read professional reviewers that have a lot more experience in whiskey than we have talk about this stuff as well. So some of you guys are aware of this. For those of you who aren't, we'll keep talking about it and bringing it up. But just really unique. The finish is still lingering in the mouth, so it's approaching that long finish, and just awesome whiskey. And I wonder if there's much older whiskey than 21 in here. Wouldn't be surprised, but really unique. 21 years old is definitely an old whiskey, and yeah, hope we did the whiskey justice. Really, really good. Anything else to add?
Just saying that there was another Springbank, but also this one. This is one of the Springbanks that really got us hooked on Springbanks. It's that balance between the sweet fruits and then the smoke, the very light, subtle smokiness from the way that Springbank does peat. Because when we kind of started, we would either have really sweet kind of sherried whiskeys like Macallan, or really fruity whiskeys, very bourbon heavy, or really smoky, peaty whiskeys like Ardbeg 10, Lefroy 10, for example. But when we had the balance and the full spectrum of this Springbank or other Springbanks like this, that's what really got us hooked on that. And just want to highlight that. And really the first thing I get, along with what you said, like very characteristic soaked apricots, peaches like Springbank does. I also get very unique, like flambéed bananas, almost like bananas Foster, that some of the high-end Springbanks do, which takes you to like kind of tropical area, like coconut, toasted marshmallow, just all those elements, like more dessert elements. But one thing that maybe you don't get as much from the darker Springbanks of this nature, 21, 12, etc., that are more cola, more honey mustard, cherry vinaigrette driven, is you don't get as much of that light peat, that light smoke, light garden bonfire. So that's kind of cool when you do these bourbon ones, that you get a lot more of that. So
yeah. And my guess,
you gotta try the whole spectrum.
My guess is especially when I'm getting that orange, and it's almost like chocolate covered orange. That's where I'm feeling like there is a little sherry influence.
It's gotta be a little bit, yeah.
A little bit. But it's mainly bourbon.
Yeah.
And I'd say old style Springbank does sherry the best. It's like the most mind-blowing sherry ever. But we wanted to show you guys that with the bourbon influenced whiskeys, they can do epic stuff too. Wow. So it's not just one way. Yeah. Where I'd say with a distillery like Macallan, they do sherry so well. To me personally, they don't do the bourbon side very well. But there are a lot of people who disagree, who say the Fine Oaks are better than the sherries. There's some people say that, but that's not what they're known for. Yeah.
Especially not old school.
Yeah. So anyways, score wise, this is an amazing whiskey, so I have no problems giving this a 92 out of 100.
Same. 92 out of 100.
Yeah,
Solid.
really good whiskey. And we'll keep bringing you guys more and more of these older styles as well as current style bottlings, and we'll compare and talk about the olden days and the current days. All right. Please click the thumbs up if you haven't, and subscribe if you haven't. And also check out some of our older Springbank whiskeys. We've done the local barley 1966.
That's epic.
3 of them. We've done Springbank 30 Old Style Millennium. We've done the Dumpy 21 that I referred to in the beginning, and we've done the 12-year-old 100 proof from the 90s as well. There's going to be a lot more coming, but keep talking about Springbanks a lot, and check those reviews out as well. All right, you guys. We'll see you guys soon for another review.
Cheers.
Cheers.